Burnout is a tricky subject because I don't think we fully understand it until the aftermath. Last year, after the onslaught of my internal medicine rotation, I began to feel different. I definitely wasn't my usual outgoing and positive self, and I felt like I was pretty indifferent to my clinical evaluations that I was going to receive from my residents and attendings. It was for this reason and many more last year that I decided to put a pause on my medical education. And when it came time to evaluate whether or not I would return to medical school, I realized that I changed myself, but the system that I was going to enter was not going to be any different than when I left it. While there's much to be said about the pressures of medical education, my outlook on studying and patient care dramatically changed for the better, and that's primarily what I want to share in this video. All right, so I'm going to break down my approaches to burnout in 5 main categories. And the first category is exercise and sleep. So without a foundation of health and wellness, pretty much everything you do is not going to matter. I think that the long-term cumulative effects of stress and not taking care of yourself physically or eating unhealthy are way worse than maybe answering a few questions wrong on a test. And what I've noticed is that if I do prioritize sleep and exercise, I end up performing better in all aspects of my life. I end up performing better on tests. I do better clinically because I'm refreshed. And when I show up at 5 a.m. for pre-rounds, I'm actually ready to go and learn from attendings. And the information isn't just going to fly past my head. I'm actually going to learn from everything that happens that day because I got enough sleep and because, I exercised in the afternoon. So whether it's addressing your mental health, going out for a walk, or cleaning up your diet a little bit, all of these tiny measures are way more important than studying, in my opinion, and they should be the number one priority no matter what stage of education or what stage of your career you're in. So the second thing that I did to overcome burnout is if you can't change the system you're in currently, then you have to change your mindset. I know this sounds cliche, but I was becoming so jaded towards the end of my internal medicine rotation that I forgot the impact that we can have as medical students towards the patients that we take care of. No matter what level you are in your training, as healthcare providers in the hospital, patients are looking up to us in their times of vulnerability. This is a real responsibility that we have, and so I try and learn from every interaction that I have in the hospital. So while there continues to be shifts with tremendously long hours, like in surgery, I still view my opportunity to learn and be part of a patient's health in the hospital as a privilege. And moving on to kind of another mindset shift that I had that's probably even more important is I just learned to enjoy the journey and have fun wherever I can. I've started to enjoy working with a team and just making light of some of the situations we find ourselves in. I think because we feel like we're constantly being evaluated as medical students, we put up this crazy professional wall in the clinical setting. Being so rigid and trying to help in every way possible as a medical student can sometimes make situations just uncomfortable. And if I'm going to be in the hospital for 12 hours a day, I might as well try and have fun and enjoy it while I'm there. All right, so the third thing that I did to kind of help with burnout is to really limit the resources that I use for studying. So really, I would just stick to 2 or 3 resources. And right now, during my 3rd year rotations, the 3 resources that I use are pretty much Anki, Amboss, and UWorld. And that's pretty much it. The rest of the information I try and learn from clinic because attendings and residents have a lot that they can teach you, and there's a lot you can learn from your patient interactions. And, if you get like a diagnosis wrong, for example, you can learn why and how to better approach like patient management in the future. So that's kind of what I do for studying, and it keeps my studying really streamlined. And it's really important during your 3rd year to do that because you are almost working like a full-time job, and you don't want to worry about like going through resources over and over again because a lot of the information you'll cover will be pretty redundant. So you probably only have to go over it once, like with a question bank or with Anki, and then the rest you just learn in clinic. And what this does is it basically just frees up a lot of time by studying efficiently to be a human outside of med school. All right, so the 4th thing that I did to really help with burnout is by just talking with everyone and anyone. Family, friends, residents, classmates. I would talk to them about how I'm feeling and kind of what they're also doing if they feel like they're burning out. and just asking them about strategies and ways that they cope with kind of the stress of medical school and medical education. And I even started a series on this YouTube channel called RRR, or Regular Reps and Rhythm. It's a play on regular rate and rhythm for a cardiac exam. And in that series, I've been talking to classmates so far about how they balance fitness in medical school. And I asked them about strategies that they use in order to live a more balanced life in medical school. And I think just by having those conversations, it's not only useful because, I'm putting it on YouTube and a lot of people can learn from them, but it's useful for myself having these interviews because I learn a lot from my own classmates who are interested in different specialties, and all of them have different strategies and hobbies. So it's just really nice to hear what other people are doing, in order to deal with burnout. And another group of people that I talk to is physicians that are currently in the career that I'm aspiring to or that I would like to become. So for example, I've talked to a decent amount of NASA flight surgeons, which is in the field of aerospace medicine. And I've kind of asked them about how they've gotten to where they are, what medical school was like for them. And that is kind of like the best people to ask, to be honest, because they've gone through the hardest parts of training, and learning from them and how they dealt with stress and how they feel in their current position, whether or not it's rewarding or not, can be super useful, just not only in dealing with burnout, but also kind of seeing what it's like at the end of the tunnel. And so finally, the fifth and last thing that I kind of have done or thought about in order to deal with burnout is keeping a sense of hope. I've noticed a slow change that happened with myself and my mindset about medical school and the system I work in. I've seen a lot of unionization, for example, at certain residency programs. And I've noticed that within the administration and a lot of physicians I work with, they do notice the rigors of medical education and the stress it puts on students and residents. And I think there is more of an open discussion happening nowadays about how we can better employ wellness and balance within a medical school curriculum. Now, I still think there's an enormous way to go before any program is 100% burnout free. But I think by having these discussions and by being open about our emotions and how we're feeling, we can kind of pave the way for our current generation and future generations to have a more sustainable medical education and a more sustainable medical career. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This was kind of a different style and format than I've done in the past. But to all of you that are dealing with burnout right now, I think first and foremost, try and reach out to someone close or a counselor and talk about what you're going through. And I wouldn't recommend, quitting and dropping right away. I think it's important to think about your options and think inwards about kind of what you're experiencing. And at the end of the day, it's always okay, in my opinion, to take a break or to take a mental health pause if you really need to. But yeah, stay strong and healthy, my Nakama. And as always, Dattebayo.